Good morning, Wendy. How are you?
Morning. Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back to LinkedIn Live. It seems like it has been forever, but I think I finally have settled into Dallas, and it's time to get back to it. So,
Yay. I'm excited.
welcome. Wendy Gilch is the founder of Selling Later. We met kind of at Inman a couple of years ago in 2020, and I've been following her ever since and love what she has built at Selling Later, which is kind of the precursor to what sellers need before they go to list their home. So, welcome. And I would love for you to tell people a little bit about your platform, why you created it, and what they can find when they go to sellinglater.com.
Absolutely. So, originally I made Selling Later based off of not being able to time buying and selling. So, we were building a home, we had a townhouse with 7 months' notice that we knew we were going to sell, couldn't do it, sold too early, lived with my parents for 4 months, moved twice. And I thought, hey, why can't I tell people when I'm going to be making a move? And so I originally created it like a Craigslist, like post your home, get connected. And then I went to that real estate conference where I met you. Well, we didn't really meet, but we were both
We should
there.
have met.
We were there in spirit together. And I remember going to this conference as just a consumer, like I'm not an agent. And I remember sitting in the green room because I was going to speak on stage for 60 seconds and texting my husband, like, I don't belong here. Like, the stuff they're talking about, like, just doesn't seem really fair. It doesn't make sense. It seems like it's making things more expensive. And so I went home and spent the next year looking at real estate from the consumer side, but going behind the curtain to figure out why things cost the way they do, how much your data is worth, why it gets sold so often and so much. And just pivoted Selling Later to become this consumer ally that lets you connect while you're waiting to sell, but also learn how to save money and avoid consumer traps and understand what you're getting into way before you actually jump into the market.
Yeah. There's so much that I know I didn't know until I became a realtor. So I love the fact that your platform is really educating the consumer. What are some things that people will find on your website?
Right. So you can post your home up to a year before you want to sell. And as a buyer, you can inquire directly to people that post the home. I don't believe in the middleman, the Zillows of the world, where you think you're inquiring to the person that listed the home and you're going to some random real estate agent who answers the phone fast enough. And sometimes, I shouldn't say all the time. And so it's always the matter of letting everybody connect directly and not telling them how they should sell their home and letting them explore their options and understanding what they're getting into before they actually have to get into it, because it seems overwhelming and confusing and hard to prepare for. But we've been able to break it down into these like monthly tactics to help you
Mhm.
get ready, so it's not 2 months before you're ready to sell and you just feel
Right.
overwhelmed. My friend sold in our neighborhood, and she was just in tears like weeks before she put it on the market because there was just so much to do, and it's
Right.
emotional, right? And so
Mhm.
if we can break it up in smaller pieces, can we help better prepare you physically, emotionally,
Yeah.
financially for all the things that are about to happen?
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the reasons that I kind of got into it. And I left listing homes for a while because my goal really was to protect the consumer's equity. And I was really finding it difficult to do that and serving with a traditional brokerage because I wasn't able to tailor solutions to the seller, right? I had to charge a certain percentage, regardless of how much work that seller had done, and regardless of how fast that house was going to sell, how difficult it was going to be to sell, if it needed staging or not staging. I was supposed to do certain amounts of marketing, and I knew that those marketing dollars weren't going to sell the house; they were only going to sell me. And so it was real challenging, and so I really quit listing for a while to help sellers know the questions to ask in order to determine the right strategy, the right real estate agent. And sometimes the best real estate agent is a local one that lives in your neighborhood. And it's not always about the traditional brokerage versus a quote discount broker.
Mm.
It's really about what do you need to net? What do you want to walk away with? And then creating that strategy. So I love that you're educating consumers to ask the right questions that they need to ask
Right,
before they
right.
commit to a certain realtor or brokerage or method for selling.
Right. And I think it's just the internet in general. Like, if you are considering selling a certain way, you can Google it and you can find everything in the world to tell you why you should do it and everything in the world to tell you why you shouldn't. And it's really a case by case basis, right? And people say all the time, like, you'll lose money if you use a discount agent, but like, is that necessarily true? Or like for sale by owner, you're not going to get as much money, but like studies recently showed that it's you may sit on the market longer, but you're not really losing money. So navigating the truth into all that, because I guess what I realized is finding the truth in this industry is like very murky, very, very murky. And I didn't know that, you know, and it's interesting that like I'm almost 2 years into this now, and I just feel like a whole different person. I shouldn't say it that way, but you know, what I know now versus when I started is just mind-boggling, right?
I want to give a shout out to Ron Bruno, who's joined us. If you are joining us, let us know where you are and tell us what you do. If I don't know you, but I'd love to welcome you and love to share any questions or comments that you have on the industry. Ron's a great lender with guaranteed rate. He has helped a number of my clients, and I love the education that he does for consumers as well. You know, I think one of the interesting things, you talk about the timing when selling a home. Talk to me a little bit about that and the value, because I love the fact you're not trying to remove agents from the process. You're not focused on helping sellers sell by owner. You're helping with the timing of it. And I think what you're doing right now is so important because the industry is, the supply is so low. It would be so helpful for me when I moved to Dallas in March, and there were like 3 homes in the neighborhood I wanted that were for sale. And I kept thinking after I got under contract, well, is there going to be another home coming on the market next week? I wish I could know what else is coming on the market because I wasn't in a rush to buy. So tell me a little bit about the timing and how you solve that problem.
Yeah, you know, so when I first started, I thought maybe this was just like a rare problem that people have, that they know ahead they're going to sell, but you can't do anything until you list your home. But then it just kept happening, and I kept hearing it. Oh, hey, someone from Pittsburgh. Hi, Chris. But then it kept happening, and I realized this is really common. And so when I started to do my initial research, it said that home sellers know 5 to 10 months in advance that they're going to sell. But you can't do anything really, you know, publicly until you list your home to get out there. And I originally thought that was because there is nowhere for you to do it. And so I created the platform. But then, you know, after I got into this and saw the other side, I realized this industry doesn't really want sellers and buyers to find out about each other, because when that happens, there's a lot of control that gets lost and a lot of money that is no longer being made off of your data and your connections. And so it's a very interesting dynamic. And I'm just trying to stay completely on the consumer side. So I don't care how you sell. I just think if we're all sitting here in the dark waiting to sell our home, and buyers are out there knowing they're going to buy in April, like why are we all hidden from each other? You know, and it doesn't have to be that way, but it's kind of set up that way by those that pull the strings. And so it's like a David and Goliath, it almost feels like, but that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Well, I know Chris is on here. I don't know if you've connected with Chris Roberts. He's with Pivot. He's been in the relocation industry for years. And I really think that what you're doing has implications for the relocation industry, just in terms of when I'm moving. When I find out that my husband's job is moving us to a new city, I usually know 6 months in advance. And it would be really helpful to know, you know, who's going to be selling and just make that a seamless transaction. And I don't know how that would work with the relocation industry because there's some challenges there. But that's a real problem when you are relocating and you've got a long weekend to come in and find a home, and you're really limited to just those homes that are on the market that week. And that may be 6 months before you show up, before you're moving. So I don't know if there's a way to get your platform more utilized by employees, by assignees that are relocating. But it seems to me like it would be really helpful for people to know who else is relocating, and they know they're going to be selling. No doubt. They're not just want to sell. They're going to have to sell in June. They're going to have to sell in August, but I need to know about that in March.
Right.
And as you know, clear cooperation has created some challenges. We used to be able to let the public know, other agents know when we had a listing, and some, but now we can't do that anymore.
But some still do. I saw that report. Redfin did that study earlier this year saying that since NAR put this policy out to diminish pocket listings, so homes sold by agents that you don't you don't find out about. So since NAR put that policy in place, Redfin said pocket listings went up 67%. And since that time period.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's look into this. But then an article came out of, I think, Orlando or Tampa last month, and it specifically said from a broker, I don't mind because then I don't have to split the commission. And so it's like, okay, well, and then this broker also said, I just tell my agents, as long as you're not telling people and marketing the home, you're good. And I'm like, well, this is making it worse, right? Like this makes it really hard. And it's just, and I think the other thing that stuck out to me in that article is a couple was looking to buy a home. They put in an offer and they lost, but the home seller of that home they lost on said, I think you would really fit in here. My neighbor down the street is selling. And so you have to look at it. And also it's like, what does fit in mean? Like she doesn't know this family. She knows they have kids. She knows what they look like. And that's what this person established. So what does that do for people that don't quote unquote fit in? Are you further down the line now? Yeah. And so in selling later, that's why we don't have pictures, we don't profiles. You don't know who you're working with, and we use mass email because it should be fair for everybody. You shouldn't be judged based on how you look or who you're with or where you live. Just make it fair. Yeah,
that's so true. Yeah, that transparency is so needed. Well, I know you had some questions that people had sent in. Do you have any questions for me?
I do. So in Selling Later, we have this community where sellers and buyers can connect, and professionals are there too, and they can ask questions. But I asked in advance for some questions. And the last time I did this, the person I interviewed got in trouble. So I hope this one goes better.
I'll be very careful.
Even though what he said was opinion-based and factual, but we'll skip that for another day. Okay, so the first one was, in regards to relocation, like how does that work? Does your company find you a real estate agent, or does the relocation company find you an agent? Or
that's a great question. I didn't understand how corporate relocation worked, and I had done 8 corporate relocations before I became a realtor. And then it was like, oh wow, if I had known all that, and Chris Roberts is still in here, and I was telling him that the other day, if I had known everything that I know, I would have had more empathy for my real estate agents, because I just didn't understand how it worked. And that the agents that I had to use, we were usually limited to a company or 2 brokerages, and we could pick an agent out of that. But what I didn't realize is that they were making about 50% of that commission. And I often talk about the challenge for that is that relocation client, they're moving, in our case, we were moving from Germany to Texas, right? It was a huge move for us. We were deer in the headlights, right? We didn't know what, the difference between Frisco and Fort Worth. We were having to pick schools for our kids, and we didn't know which end was up. And we had an agent, though, that was making 50% of her commission. So how committed was she to being available and giving us the time that we needed? And we didn't really have any other resources. We didn't know anybody. We didn't have anybody to ask questions of. We didn't have anybody to help us. It's one of the reasons why I've been a consultant for Pivot with Lynn Greenberg, who's founded that, and Chris that now works for them, is because they kind of help solve that. Let me answer those questions before I get committed to a real estate agent. That's what I didn't know how to do. Yes, I was limited to a realtor in a certain brokerage, but I didn't know to say, you know what, we're going to move to Frisco. I need a Frisco-based agent. Right. Or I need to know that agent that I'm working with is available this weekend. She doesn't have Little League games. She's not working with other clients in from out of town. So I didn't know the questions to ask. So it wasn't, I just thought they were not giving me the time they needed. What I came to understand is I just wasn't asking the right questions. So sometimes you have a choice between using the relocation or doing a lump sum. I think it's really figuring out which one's going to be better for you. There's a lot of marked up prices in relocation. I found out after we moved to Boston that the relocation cost of our move was $180,000.
Wait, what?
I know.
From Boston to Texas?
From Texas to Boston.
It's okay.
We moved ourselves from Boston to Texas, and I can guarantee you it didn't cost that. Now, part of that was corporate housing, but the corporate housing cost was about $10,000 a month. And I can guarantee you that the 2-bedroom apartment we were renting in the middle of the college district was not a $10,000 a month apartment.
Right.
The commissions that were used to sell our house, we had to sell it through a traditional brokerage, 6%. I couldn't list it. Again, I found the buyer just through social media. that expense is just to me no longer needed. And then when I asked for a real estate agent on the other end, I was really excited because I thought I knew the questions to ask this time. We're just going to rent for the first year before we buy. So I said, I really need somebody that understands the apartment rental market. Well, they gave me an agent that was a single family home specialist. And the whole time he kept talking about where I would buy in a year from now.
Right.
So I was a loss leader for him. He was helping me. He wasn't going to get paid very much for helping me find an apartment, but he was hoping to make money on the other end when I went to buy. And so I ended up finding my apartment again. And this was I think the fifth home out of 8 through relocation companies that I actually found because my real estate agent wasn't focused on what it was that I needed.
Right.
And now that we have technology, we have everything we need in the palm of our hand, the consumer can find it. So, not to bash relocation. I mean, relocation was great. And they did a lot of things like paying for our temporary housing and taking care of the cost of the moving van and all of that and full pack moves. But there's some real challenges when it comes to the real estate piece. That was the problem we always had, right? Things could get broken in the move. The corporate housing might not be the best, but those could be fixed with money or finding a different place to live. But that real estate agent really determined how we found home, right? Not just finding a house, but how we got settled in. And I think it really just takes having been on both sides of the transaction to really get and see some ways that could be changed. So I don't know how much that answers your question or the person that answered that question, other than I think corporate relocation and understanding the commissions and the splits and all of that is about as complicated as understanding the real estate industry.
If it took me like 2 years to figure that out, so we don't need to figure it out today. Okay, well, the next one, someone asked, what's the difference between a discount agent and a traditional agent?
Bobby Bryant would have a field day with that. Bobby is the founder of Ask DOS.
I know, but just fair priced agent versus traditional agent, right? Is that the correct
right?
wording?
I think, and this is where the NAR lawsuit comes into play, and the DOJ, and all of that. Is that price fixing? Is it really 6%? Is that, can you even say that? And do all agents really list at 6%? I know at my old brokerage, a lot of the agents would offer to pay for certain seller costs, but they still had to pay their 30, 40, 50%, whatever the brokerage was taking off of the full 3% listing,
right?
Or off of the buyer's end. But they would reduce their commission or do a rebate or something, because when you've got Redfins and Zillows and other companies and companies like DOS that are offering something else, of course the consumer is asking for a better deal, right? Why is it still a fixed percentage? So I don't think of DOS as a discount brokerage. I think we are a fee for service, full service at a fair price. I think it's really tailoring solutions to the buyer and to the seller, right? If a seller needs to see 50 homes, why should I as an agent get paid 3%? And then if I have a client that calls me up and says, hey, I found a home, I want to buy it, still get paid 3%.
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Or
if the seller has done everything that I need them to do to get that house to sell, they've staged it, they've painted it, they've done everything I need, then why should I expect 3% if they've got skin in the game? And so I always arrange my agreements with my sellers so that they've got skin in the game, I have skin in the game, and we come up with something that's fair.
Right.
And it's full service when they need full service.
Right.
So I think it's just understanding the value of the agent and what you need when you're buying or selling. And I would say, not all discount brokers are created equal, like, or 1% or whatever. I mean, there are ones you want to use and there are ones you don't.
Right.
And the same though with the traditional brokerages. The traditional brokerages, I mean, not all agents are created equal. Location is a factor, the time that they have for you, the property type expertise. So you have to know the questions to ask in order to determine the right agent. And I think it's more based on the agent and who they are than it is the broker today.
Right. I know an agent in Pittsburgh who has a rebate program based on how much work he has to do for you. So it's like a point system, and you can go to, like, if he takes you to 3 homes and he writes 2 offers, you get this much of a rebate. But if he's taking, like 20 homes and writes 12 offers, then he's not. And that's fair, right? Because in the last interview I did, it was the same question. Like, why do you get paid the same, whether it's 2 homes
Mhm.
or 10 homes, and I
Yeah.
understand it equals out, but why am I as a
Right.
consumer not being rewarded to anything because you had to do half the amount of work with me? And I think that's kind
Exactly.
of where that comes up.
And Chris talks about, he said not landing in the right community or the right home is a big problem with especially when you're relocation, you're coming into an area you don't know. I love that Pivot is helping solve that. The consumer can get on and they can find out the difference between all these different cities. They can ask questions about schools. I have a client right now that I'm working with, and so we got an education consultant to help her determine where was going to be the best fit for her kids because they're moving in from out of the country. Where's the right school fit for them? And helped guide her to determine what area. That made my job easier. And then we were able to focus on the area that she'd already determined was best for her, not me deciding what's best for her.
Right,
And I think
right,
that's something that Pivot really can solve for these relocation brokerages by making that jobs of that agent easier. Because again, when that agent's making 50% of their commission, the consumer does need to do some of the work.
right,
And they can now, but you've got
right,
to have a little bit more. You've got to be armed with a little more information, especially if you're moving to a city as big as Dallas Fort Worth, because you've got to narrow it down. And so I think with relocation, anything we can do to help narrow it down and make it easier for the agent. One of the things that I've always found challenging is why should I only work with one agent? No, I'm not solving that problem. Pivot's not solving that problem. I think there are going to be more companies. So I solve it to some degree because a lot of times I will show clients a bunch of different areas, um, and then I'll decide on the agent. That's what DOS Social Agents is. We will connect you to a realtor that we know and trust. Once we find out where you're moving.
right.
Um, but to just be limited to one agent when I don't know where I want to live in a city as big as Dallas Fort Worth, that's challenging not only for the consumer, but it's challenging for that poor real estate agent.
Right, right. And it's interesting. You talk about community. I've seen it so many times. I'm not on Facebook much, but I
Mhm.
do pop into like the mom groups on Facebook sometimes, and it's constant. If someone's asking, "Hey, we're going to be moving here," it just happened the other week. We're going to be moving here from California. Any
Mhm.
suggestions on like schools? And half the comments are people that are real estate agents just saying, "I'd love to
Right.
work with you." I'm like, that's not what they
Right.
asked. Like they don't.
Yeah.
Like there's pay a time and a place, and right now is not the time and place to sell yourself. Like they just
Yeah.
want help, right? Like I don't want to be sold to. I just want an answer.
Yeah. And that's where you need that neutral advisor, that consultant.
Right.
That's why I call myself a relocation strategist. That's why I use the hashtag not your realtor, because you need somebody that's not trying to get that commission. And it is challenging. You've got more agents than you have houses for sale. We're all out to make money to feed our families. And so that is challenging, but you're right. Those Facebook groups can get quite humorous,
Oh my
and
gosh.
a lot of times the agents don't say, hey, are you renting? Are you? I mean, like, and a lot of times they're just looking to rent, and so without asking the right questions, it's hard
Right.
to give somebody guidance.
Right. Exactly. Speaking of asking questions, the next one was, what questions should I be asking a listing agent when interviewing them?
Ooh, great question. I would find out. This is going to be a little controversial, but I would find out how many listings they have, depending on what kind of service you need.
Right.
If they have 5 listings, 10 listings, the most listings I ever had at one time was 4. I did have an assistant at that time, but it was hard juggling that, providing the service, the marketing that I wanted to provide. And so I would find out how many listings they have. What is it like working for them? Ask for a client of theirs that you can interview. Find out what it was like working with them. Um, and don't just try to get a 1% listing to get a 1% listing. You need to make sure that agent is getting paid to deliver what you need them to deliver. I've started recently doing something a little bit differently where I do a flat fee. And I used to do that when I would list. I would be like, okay, so it's a 3% would be $15,000. But if you will paint the garage, paint the kitchen cabinets, get a storage unit, declutter, hire my stager, spend about $5,000 to give me a home that's ready to sell, then I'll do it for a flat fee, and I would name that fee.
Mhm.
And that was a really great way to do it, because then the seller had skin in the game, and I had a house that was ready to deliver to sell.
Right.
Um, a recent home that I did a flat fee, And we agreed that for everything over a certain amount that they would pay me a bonus. One of the things that I needed them to do, though, was to paint. There was a master bedroom and bath. They had painted everything. The house looked phenomenal. I had my stager over there, but they didn't want to finish out the bathroom and the master bedroom. And I just kind of said, you're breaking my heart. I've gone through this house. It's beautiful. Then I go upstairs and it's a little bit of a letdown. It's not that it's bad, but now that I've seen everything else,
It's not
it doesn't
perfect.
fit.
Right.
And I just said, you know what? I really need you to do this. If it doesn't sell for over asking, I will pay you that back. I will rebate you the $3,000 that you spend to paint it and change out the light fixtures. And so they did. They did it. And we did. We got significantly over asking price.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just created a strategy that made sense instead of just saying it's 3%, regardless if I sell your house or not, for what you're asking.
Right.
And I think that's the problem that I see sellers get into trouble with. Agents will name a price that the house can sell because they want the listing, knowing the house won't sell for that much, and or maybe not knowing. But I've seen it happen where they've done it to get the listing, and then you still are stuck paying 3%, even though the house was 500 and it sold for 475.
Right.
And so I think just being able to create a strategy that makes sense, a business strategy. This is your equity. My job is to protect your equity. So find an agent that is able to tailor solutions, do it more of a fee for service, know what to do in terms of pre-inspections, how to stage your home, what to do to get it to sell. Get Caroline Carter's book, Smart Moves. I know you've met Caroline Carter.
Yeah. Yeah. I
read a
have the book in
and
the other room. I wish I was able to grab it.
And do what you need to do, because there's some things as a seller you have to do. The agent can't do it.
Right.
Right. But find out from somebody like a stager, somebody who really does that business. A lot of real estate agents, there are great real estate agents that are great at staging. Jake Melton is one of them out in Utah. They are a powerhouse team with him and his wife, but that's what they do.
Right.
I'm not a stager. That's not what I'm good at. I know some things, but I always rely on my stager to really decide what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done.
Right. Right. And that was interesting. You mentioned how many homes do they have for sale this year, or listings? I'm sorry. But I would also say, like, do they have any this year? Because
True.
There was one report I was reading that in my area, there's like 40% of agents haven't sold anything this year. So not that means that they're not knowing what they're going to do, but like maybe they had more last year and that's fine. But like, what is their experience, especially if it's a specific type of home, right? Like if it's a co-op versus a single family home, you might need someone different.
Yeah. And I would say, think about the property type. And I love a new agent, because a new agent's hungry. They're eager. Find somebody that's been in business prior to becoming a real estate agent, somebody with a business background that really understands the art of selling, the art of negotiation, the art of marketing. What kind of house do you have? Do you have a house that really all you need is a sign in the yard? It's a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house in a neighborhood where everything is selling like that. You just need to make sure it's priced right and it's negotiated expertly. But is it a house that is, maybe it's on 2 acres, or it's unique, or it doesn't fit in, it's an outlier in the type of property it is, and maybe the buyer isn't going to find it by they're not looking. I've had homes like that before where it was just a unique property. The price point didn't fit the neighborhood, or it had a unique feature, and we needed to find the buyer, somebody that wasn't necessarily looking. And so I think it's really understanding the property type you have, and then finding that right agent that understands. If you need an agent that is stellar at marketing and networked in that community and can get it sold on Facebook, then that's who you need. Or maybe it's an agent in that neighborhood, or maybe it's an agent that's a specialist in farm and ranch. You'll never find me listing a farm and ranch property. I'm going to find a farm and ranch agent that lives in that area and that knows people looking to buy farm and ranches.
Right.
So I think it's just understanding the property type and the skill set that you need when asking those questions. And that's one of the things I do. Anybody can call me and ask me, and I can help connect them. I just did this with a guy with land in Georgia and helped him connect to a realtor. I interviewed the realtors for him and helped him connect to somebody that really understood how to do land.
Right.
I did it for another seller with land in Dallas. I didn't list it. I gave it to one of our brokers at Doss, who understands what that property needs in order to market it. And it's already got several offers on it after just going on the market. He was the right realtor, not me.
Right. And I think that's important for for you to have the right person, not necessarily the person whose face is like all over the billboards.
Yeah, it's not about that. It
Right.
really isn't.
Right. I love how Jay
Yeah,
Valella always says, like, if you are really good at marketing yourself, that's great, but that has nothing to do with what kind of agent you are, right? That just means you're
yeah,
good at marketing yourself.
right.
Um,
Because it's a business decision, right? It involves negotiation. It involves, I'm not going to be marketing myself when I'm marketing your house.
right, right,
You've got to have somebody that's marketing your house.
right. And the one thing that was the next question you touched upon, pre-listing inspection. So this came up
Mhm.
the last AMA that we did.
Yeah.
Do or not do?
I really like them. I'm a fan of them. We didn't do it on my last listing last week because we didn't have time. They ended up moving up the date. But I told them ahead of time there's going to be two things right offhand. I know that the seller's going to ask, and sure enough, they did. So a pre-listing inspection allows you to address those things that need to be addressed, and and it puts you in offense, right? Because you can say, these are things that we know that need to be done. We've either addressed them or we've considered them in the pricing, because otherwise you just get into that option period and you use that time, you use that period. The buyer's agent uses it to fight you on your price.
Right,
I like to know what I don't know. I like
right,
to,
right,
and put that seller on offense, not defense, when it comes to that. When it comes to that period. Also, right now, while houses are selling and people are waiving inspections, it might increase your chance of getting somebody who comes in and waives an inspection. If you say, here's our inspection, we just did it, you're welcome to do one.
right.
It's not meant to keep the buyer from doing an inspection. But it's like when you go buy a used car, you don't buy a used car without having it, a Carfax on it,
Mhm.
right? You don't say, yeah, I'll pay $30,000 for that car. You have a Carfax. You know if it's been in wrecks, you know what's been done to it. And it makes sense for the house to be the same way, to
Right.
know how old the HVAC is, how is it working, how many windows have lost their seal, is the pool pump working, does the heater work, are the lights working in the pool, does the roof have damage? And just to know those things ahead of time, it just puts you in a better position to negotiate.
Right. We talked about this. We've been talking about this since I've known you, but like, why is everything in real estate a surprise? It doesn't, like, when the home hits the market, it's only a surprise to buyers. Like that brokerage already
Yeah.
knows about it. That seller's been thinking about it for months. But the inspection, like, that's a surprise. And it's usually like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before, like, you're ready to close. The appraisal is a
Yeah.
surprise. And it's like, what does it really need to be everything a surprise? Like, could you just do it all backwards and make everything
Yeah. I mean,
transparent,
my
you know?
best guess, if you ask an agent what value they provide, they're always going to say, I help navigate the inspection, right?
Right.
That's a big part of the value. That's where the negotiations happen, right? That's where, the price gets decided. We decide how much the seller's going to fix or not fix. This is why I said that pre-inspection keeps that seller on offense
Right.
rather than playing defense. And I think part of the reason that it's just still done that way is because that is a way that agents can justify that 3% when they're working with the buyer's agent. When I went to sell my house, I had an appraisal, which I think an appraisal right now in this market, it doesn't make sense because your appraisal is going to be lower than what the house will actually sell.
Hmm.
But I had an appraisal, and it wasn't necessarily a bank appraisal. It was appraisal of value based on the quality of finishes and all that. And then I had a pre-inspection. And the sellers, I found the buyer through Facebook. And then I just said, you're going to need an agent. And so they went and got an agent. The agent had never shown them any properties. And then she went to fight me on my price. And I said, well, here's the appraisal. And I'm already 10,000 below the appraisal because they're a cash buyer. This is great. This is going to be fast. And then, so we got that. But then they did the inspection. She came back. She wanted $4,000 of concessions for repairs. I was like, you're going to need to send me the inspection report because I said we did a pre-inspection and I don't see $4,000 worth. And so she sent it to me and all these things that they wanted. I'm like, the seller already told me she doesn't want new carpet. She's got 4
Hmm.
dogs.
Yeah.
There were several other things. And I said, I see about $1,000 worth. And I said, you're getting paid $18,000 to $20,000 on this. So I'll tell you what, I'm not paying for anything. I've already done all these things. I've got a new HVAC, a new
Hmm.
water heater. I said, any repairs your client wants, you can you can rebate it from your commission.
Right. I'm sure that went
Doesn't
over
make me a very
well.
popular
Right.
agent, but I mean, I'm paying her, right? I'm
Right.
paying her, and it was 3%. It was a lot of money for not having done anything,
Right.
right?
Right. It's
Um,
interesting, listening to you talking just from commentary from other people. in my opinion, as like a for sale by owner, those tools, if you're coming up with a buyer that's represented by an agent, like having those tools to say, no, like I know what that cost to fix it, and it's this much money. I already took it out of what I'm selling my home for. Or
Right.
no, you can't charge me $4,000 because you're 3,000
Yeah.
over what that actually costs. Like just such good, I know you use this word like tools in your toolbox, but
Hmm.
those two things, especially as a for sale by owner, just seem like a no-brainer to protect yourself, right?
I mean, it really is. And I think that's where, I do think you can sell for sale by owner, or you can sell with, like, right now, DOS has a sell your house sale. You can actually list your house with us in MLS for $500 if you list with us this month and sell it before January 31st. For those sellers that are willing to put the work in and do the staging and pay for the photos and get their house ready to sell, then and we will guide you. We will provide full service in giving you the guidance, the education you need on where the home needs to be priced. That's all priced in there for that $500 fee. But if you do the things that we tell you to do, there's no reason why you're not going to get top dollar.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm telling the people that are going to do this with me is this is we're new. We're a new company. We're just starting out. We want people to try it, test it. We want to have testimonies showing that you can sell without paying traditional commissions.
Right.
That we are professionals in this business. We've been with all the big companies. We just believe in providing full service at a fair price. And if we save you money, then there are a lot of great organizations out there this time of year you can donate money to. Right? This is the season of giving.
Right.
So if I make you an additional $10,000, $15,000, then take some of that and give back.
Right.
Find a great cause.
Right.
Homelessness is a big cause for me, right?
Right.
I'm passionate about the challenges of homelessness and mental health that creates it, and drug use and everything. And there's some great organizations. And so I really believe in getting paid what's fair. No, the sell your house, the $500, that's not fair. It's a loss leader, right? It's a marketing tool for us to get our name out and to show what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that really you can sell a house.
Right.
Commissions don't sell houses, right?
Right.
The right marketing, the right strategy sell houses.
Right.
And so we can show people that it doesn't matter anymore. I think there was a time that it did, but I don't think the sign in the yard matters anymore.
Right.
As long as the home is easy to show, is presented right, and it's priced correctly.
Right.
And I think that was a big challenge with some of the new companies when they started out doing this. They wouldn't play by the same rules. They didn't have it in the same showing time or the same scheduling thing that we have.
Oh, right,
Maybe
right.
they didn't have it. They didn't go to the extra effort to make sure the seller staged it and got professional photos. We do all that.
Right. Right. It's funny you mentioned the sign in the yard doesn't matter, because I remember thinking this, and you said the same thing, like sitting in that real estate agent conference. I just kept thinking, like, no consumer cares about this. And I know that conference wasn't aimed towards consumers, but
no, not at all.
It was like bragging rights of like, who's got the best tech, and
Right.
nobody cares about that. Because if you're still a bad agent, you can have the best tech in the world. Like, it's not going to matter, right?
And it's funny, you ask people who their agent's with, 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, I have no idea.
Yep.
They don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
let's see. I know we're running out of time. The last one, what would you like to see change in the industry, or what do you see coming, especially with the DOJ versus NAR situation?
oof, that's a loaded question.
Yes,
I think companies like DOS, other companies that are out there that are taking advantage of technology are going to change it, right? The genie's out of the box. COVID showed us that. I sold a couple of homes from Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to show them. I didn't have to go to the inspection. I couldn't go to the inspection. I couldn't go to the closing. And the other way is buyers and sellers are connecting. I had a listing. In fact, Ron Bruno, who was on here earlier, the buyer and the seller found each other. They just needed somebody to write the contract.
Right.
And I wrote the contract for 1%. Right. Why? Because it paid me for my services.
Right.
I made sure the seller wasn't getting cheated. The buyer wasn't getting cheated. I was a mediator. Technology has allowed that to be a way you can sell a house, right? I can find homes for sale without it being listed in the market through selling later. DOS is going to have something where people can find homes that are for sale by owner. and puts the consumer in control. And that's what consumers want. Again, they have everything they need in the palm of their hand, right? The consumer today is very different than the consumer not only 10 years ago, but the consumer 2 years ago,
Right,
right?
right. And I think that's
Um,
important for sale by owners because,
yeah,
with Zillow becoming a brokerage, finding for
yeah,
sale by owners now, they're not necessarily lumped in when you go to search for a home. You have to like do an
yeah,
extra click and click over here,
yeah,
and then you'll see like
yeah,
non-represented homes.
right.
And so where do you find like the all-in-one of every home that's for sale and fairly, right?
AskDOS.com.
Not hidden behind like
Right.
certain clicks or
Well, and that's a real problem going back to that clear cooperation policy. When I moved to Dallas, I had 4 different agents from 4 different brokerages sending me their off-market office exclusives. A normal seller wouldn't or buyer wouldn't know to do that.
right.
But I knew that they had off-market listings, and the only way to find them was if I was going to work with one of those agents. I would have had to pay them a referral fee. I would have had to figure out a way to kind of skirt the system to do it. But that was what I had to do to find out everything that was for sale
Right.
in the neighborhood that I wanted to buy.
Right.
And there
And
were a bunch of off-market properties. The statistic you gave was probably correct of how many off-market listings, how that's gone up since
right.
this clear. I understand the heart of it, why they created it, but they didn't see the reaction
Right.
um, that it was
Or
going
they
to.
did with the loopholes they left
They,
in, right? Like
yeah.
I think, or maybe they didn't think the loopholes would
Again,
go
I
as
think
far.
more people in this real estate industry need to be the consumer. I
Right.
think,
Right.
I
Right.
think, and the relocation industry the same way. And I think that's interesting when NAR and the DOJ, if that changes that 3% to the buyer's agent, wow, that's going to have huge implications
Right.
because these
Right.
companies, your traditional companies, are taking 50-40% of a new agent's commission, right?
Mhm.
How is that agent going to ever make money the first year if that brokerage is taking that much of their commission?
Right.
Relocation, right? Again, relocation is based off of the relocation company, the broker taking 50% of that agent's commission. So all of a sudden, if 3% becomes 1.5%, now a $15,000 commission on a $500,000 house is now $7,500,
Right.
right? And if the company they can't if they take 50% of that and I'm making $3,000, I mean, the work that goes into, I mean, I'm working with a relocation buyer right now. I mean, I'm up at midnight talking to her because she's out of state. The 2
Right.
times out of the country, the 2 times she's been in town, I've dropped everything on the weekends to be available. When she's not here, I'm meeting workmen and contractors, right? If somebody was taking 50% of my commission, there's no way I would be able to do that for her,
Right. Right.
right? And so I think that's a challenge. I don't believe in that one size fits all commission, but if you reduce it, it's really going to do damage to the consumer. So I really think the best thing that could happen would be for the real estate industry, and companies like DOS is doing it. Let's find a way to tailor these solutions, these commissions,
Right.
right? With DOS, you get a rebate if you see less than 15 homes. It
Right.
makes sense.
Right. Right. Absolutely. No, I think that does make sense. And I think it'll be, I'm curious to see what transparency comes out of these investigations or what
Yeah.
lack of control will come
Yeah.
out from. So I'm trying to read and talk at the same
I
time.
know.
I shouldn't
Sorry.
read. I'm just
This
going to
is
go
a
look at
comment from
this.
Ryan Bocrose. He is our he's an agent with he's a realtor with DOS Pros, and he's in charge of our training. He's been with Realogy. He's done some really interesting things. But he says DOJ will never set commission rates, but they may set who and how commissions will be paid, and that will change the game. And I think it's true. And it's gonna there will be companies like DOS. There'll be companies that are with a business model like ours where we are able to pivot. We are able to change the game because we aren't founded on a traditional set commission in order for our agents to make money. Our
Right.
agents can make money because they are able to tailor solutions. Our
Right.
agents can make money because they're making 100%. There are not many companies that do that. We just pay a flat fee, and that's a game changer.
Right.
So you're right. The DOJ won't be able to set commission rates, but they are definitely using the Sherman Act to obliterate any kind of set commission rate. Right now, if I was to run a list of how many homes are listed with 3% offered to the buyer's agent, it's going to be 98% of them. And
Right.
that's what the DOJ is saying um, is against the Sherman Act. It's
Right.
against the consumer. It's price fixing.